Coventry District Council committees. This channel has been set up to make sure that anyone can observe our democratic meetings. Please therefore remember that this meeting could be watched anywhere at any time by anyone with access to the internet. There is a delay between the meeting and the broadcast of about 30 seconds. There are subtitles on the YouTube broadcast. These are generated by YouTube. The Council is not responsible for these subtitles or their accuracy. Webcast officer, please can you confirm that the broadcast is running?
I can confirm we're live.
Thanks, Alex. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Local Plan Subcommittee on Thursday, 9th of September 2021. Before we commence with the proceedings, I can confirm that the Council has adopted some basic etiquette rules for its remote meetings. For ease, these are as follows. Only speak when the Chairman invites you to do so. Members, please let the Chairman know when you want to speak through the chat function. The Chairman will introduce speakers in the order that request to speak was made, unless there is a point of order, which will be prioritised. Please minimise all distractions whilst you are in the meeting. Members are asked to mute their microphones when not speaking and to consider turning their video off too, as well to reduce interference on the audio feed. Please bear in mind that there may be a lag between speaking and other attendees hearing you. Presentations for this meeting will be shown by the officers by the showing of screens. Please indicate via the chat function if there is a problem with viewing the presentations. When referring to a report, please quote the page and paragraph number. There is no private business for tonight's meeting. However, please can I remind members that when dealing with private session business, it is your responsibility to make sure that your venue and connection is private. If you lose connection at any point and are unable to immediately rejoin, then please call the meeting facilitator. Contact details have been provided. Please only use the chat function for the purpose prescribed for requesting to speak or for a point of order. The chat function is subject to the Access to Information Regimes, FOI/EIR, and is also subject to data protection, rules of defamation, and the Council's Code of Conduct. To assist with managing the chat function for this meeting, the agenda items will be included to act as markers. The members of the Local Plan Subcommittee are Councillor Mrs. Gabrielle Spray, James Abbott, Kevin Bowers, Graham Butland, James Coleridge, Tom Cunningham, Mrs. Charlie Dervish, Tony Everard, David Hume, Mrs. Wendy Scattergood, Paul Thorogood, and Justin Wrench. The officers in attendance are Emma Goodings, Head of Planning and Economic Growth, Emma Wisbey, Governance and Members Manager, and Jessica Mann, Governance and Members Officer. My name is Jessica, and myself and Emma Wisbey are the meeting facilitators. I will also be taking the minutes. Tonight we have apologies from Councillor Mrs. Dervish, Councillor Cunningham, and Councillor Bowers. I can confirm that the meeting is quorate and may proceed. I will now hand over to the Chairman, Councillor Mrs. Spray. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jess. I think you'd like to just, before we start, test Councillor Wrench's connection. He's just joined that we can hear him. Would you just like to do that?
Yes, please, Chairman. Councillor Wrench, can you just confirm that you are connected to the meeting, please, and you can hear us clearly?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Good evening, Emma.
Thank you very much. And Chairman, could we also just test Officer Gary Sung, who's also just joined the meeting as well?
Yes, please.
Hello, can you hear me? And is my video working correctly?
It is. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chairman. Much appreciated.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, members, officers, and anybody watching via the YouTube channel, and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Local Plan Subcommittee. I would just say that we decided to do this by Zoom this evening rather than an in-person meeting, mainly because it is pretty much a one-item agenda, and rather than ask everyone to come into Causeway House for what will probably be a very short meeting, thought it was more sensible to do this via the Zoom. But in future, hopefully, when there are more items on the agenda, we can all get together in Causeway House, which I think is what we'd all like to do now. But for practical purposes, it seemed the best way to do this evening. Right, we've had apologies for absence. I don't think that Councillor Abbott is with us, is he yet? So he may be joining us presently. Otherwise, everybody else is here other than those three members who have sent apologies. Item 2, declarations of interest. Could I ask anyone to declare the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interest, other pecuniary interest or non-pecuniary interest relating to items on the agenda, having regard to the Code of Conduct for members and having taken appropriate advice where necessary before the meeting? Do I have anyone at all? Councillor Butland.
I don't know whether I should, but let's be on the safe side. I declare a non-pecuniary interest as a member of Essex County Council who were statutory consultees on the plan.
Thank you very much. Don't see anything from anyone else. No. All right, good. Item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. It is quite a while, 13th of May, since our last meeting. The minutes have been circulated. Could I just have somebody to approve, please? Someone?
Move, Madam Chairman.
Anyone? Yeah, thank you, Councillor Butland. And somebody to second?
Second.
Someone? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Coleridge. And I'm assuming nobody has queried anything, so I think those minutes are approved. Thank you. Item 4, public question time. We have nobody speaking in public question time this evening, so we will move on to the main item on the agenda. Item 5, Braintree District Draft Local Plan Section 2 examination. This is the main reason for the meeting this evening, which is to get an update on the Section 2 examination, which is going to be given by, I think, principally by Emma. So Emma, I will just turn over to you, I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good evening, members. Yes, so this discussion today is an update to what has progressed with the local plan section 2 examination since our last meeting, which was some time ago. I will give a brief update. You have the report in front of you, and happy to take any questions or queries and answer them where I can. So not long after our last meeting in late May, the council then received notification of the hearing sessions into the Section 2 local plan. Section 2 local plan, of course, is the second part of the local plan with the Braintree specific policies and allocations within it. And it was taken forward for examination and hearing sessions following the adoption of the Section 1 plan in February this year. So within that notification and that we got from the inspectors, this included a draft schedule of the hearing sessions themselves, and also an indication of the matters which were to be discussed as part of those hearing sessions. As you will remember, there were 2 inspectors appointed to examine the local plan. They had split the local plan up between them, and they led different parts and continued to lead consideration of different parts of the plan. So to guide the discussions at the hearing sessions, this notification included splitting the plan into 14 main matters, and you'll see those listed within the report. And under each matter, the inspectors asked a series of questions. Those questions were to help guide the discussion at the hearing sessions, but also they asked that the council provide a written response to all those questions prior to the hearing session started. Other participants are identified by the inspectors as those who provided responses in the 2017 consultation prior to the local plan being submitted, were also invited to respond in writing to those main matter questions if they wished. They were also asked whether they wanted to participate verbally in the hearing sessions to further add to any discussion that they had published separately. So the written responses that we received as part of that main matter sessions were mainly from developers and landowners, either for or against various sites within the plan, but there was a small number of other participants who also submitted statements. All the responses to the main matter hearings are published on our website and continue to be published on our website, and were available in advance of the hearing sessions. So the hearing sessions themselves, so this is the session where the inspector brings together as it happened in a virtual room very similar to this, brings the participants together to discuss the local plan. So these sessions started on the 6th of July this year. They were hosted via Microsoft Teams, and they were broadcast live via the council's YouTube channel for those who weren't participating to be audience members to the hearing sessions. Participants to the hearing sessions were given the opportunity to attend a training session in the weeks before the examination to ensure that they were comfortable with Teams and the process that would be undertaken. And the technology seemed to work very well throughout the course of the examination. So again, as with the written responses we got to the main matters, the participants in the hearing sessions were largely landowners and their agents. Each session was led by one of the inspectors. They generated a conversation, they asked questions of the developers or the other participants as well as the council, and the inspector, either himself or herself, also asked questions as to what they wanted to consider, what they thought the main issues were. They asked questions of both participants and the council, so really to generate a discussion on both the principle and the detail of the policies and allocations within the plan. So the hearing sessions were scheduled to last 5 days. There were also 2 additional reserve days, but in the end they sat for 4.5 days. So we had 4 full days, and then we had another day scheduled, but the conversation and discussion only lasted until sort of mid-morning time. So alongside the council, so the council was represented obviously throughout by the officers of the planning policy team. We had legal representation in the form of our barrister, who was able to advise and support us on legal matters. And we were also joined by LUC, who are our sustainability appraisal consultants. And we had members of the Essex County Council Highways team with us as well to answer any specific questions in relation to road transport and highways. So as I said, there was 20 participants apart from the council who took part in at least one session. Several took part in many sessions, some only took part in one. Although there were several, I think 2 or 3 main matters where nobody apart from the council asked to participate. So those sessions were just between the inspector and the council. The discussion at the hearing sessions is to supplement the written responses that have already been received. So the inspector is looking at the full body of written responses that they received to the 2017 consultation, plus the hearing statements, plus any statements of common ground that the council had signed. And there's a number of those on the council's website that we had signed with key stakeholder and partners. And they will the hearing sessions, the verbal information given at the hearing sessions was an aid and on top of those written responses, but everything has equal weight. So if you put in a written response or if you responded verbally, that's all given equal weight in the inspector's view. So in the first week of the examination sessions, the inspectors allowed a request from the Williams Group, who are a landowner in the district, to submit a council opinion on the sustainability appraisal process. So a council opinion, essentially an opinion written by a legal professional as to a legal point. So the crux of the argument in this case was that the Williams Group argued that the sustainability appraisal should have been updated prior to the hearing session started to consider the implications of the changes to the Part 1 local plan, which obviously then fed through into the Part 2 local plan. The council took an alternative view to that. The council considered that the sustainability appraisal should be updated once the main modifications are known, but both sides acknowledged that the sustainability appraisal does need updating. So since the writing of the report, the inspectors have confirmed that they are content with the process outlined by the council, although they note that they can still reopen the hearing sessions after the revised sustainability appraisal has been completed. So this means that we can continue as we had anticipated with the programme of works that we had anticipated. This was communicated directly to the Williams Group and also a number of other people who had the opportunity to comment on the council's opinion, and has been now published on our website. So that's a publicly available position by the inspectors. So once the hearing sessions ended, there was a discussion during the hearing sessions as to the changes that would be required to the local plan. So now that those hearing sessions have ended, and as throughout the process, the examination process continues to follow the procedural guidance for local plan examinations, which, if anyone's interested in it, is published on the website and can easily be found on Google. So the council submitted a list of modifications that had been discussed during the hearing sessions to the inspectors, and also has submitted a range of further information that the inspectors asked for during the course of the hearing sessions. They sometimes asked for more detail on a particular point, why the council had chosen to take a particular view, and we were able to do that in some cases via a written response after the hearing sessions. So all that has been done. The Council now works proactively with the inspectors to consider any further questions and queries that the inspectors may have before what we hope will be a final draft list of main modifications proposed by the inspectors, assuming of course that they consider that the plan is sound, subject to modifications made. So once we have that list, the sustainability appraisal will need to be updated, as we've talked about. It needs to take into account the changes that have been proposed in the plan through the main modifications, and consider whether these changes have any impact or changes to the conclusions of the sustainability appraisal. That document was published in 2017 alongside the local plan, and therefore continues to be an iterative process, and a new version is published as each sort of version of the local plan is also published. Again, we'll be appointing our independent expert consultants, LUC, to carry out this work, and it cannot be finalised until we have the final view from the inspectors in terms of those draft proposed main modifications. We've also agreed that we would update the habitats regulation assessment. Again, it just needs to be updated to reflect the changes to the local plan and to reflect a key piece of case law which has been decided since the HRA was submitted again in 2017. So once this work has been all completed, I would envisage that we'll be bringing those proposed main modifications by the inspector, and to be clear, it is the inspector's choice as to what main modifications are proposed for the plan. We'll be bringing that plus the revised sustainability appraisal and HRA back through this committee before it undertakes a public consultation period. It will normally be, and I would expect it to be, a 6-week public consultation period. That would be publicised in the usual way and will provide more detail of that process nearer the time. However, that public consultation is an opportunity for all resident stakeholders, businesses, parish councils, and all those interested in the local plan process to have their say on whether they support the main modifications that the inspector is proposing to the plan or not. And crucially, it's not an opportunity to discuss the general merits of the local plan again. It's not another consultation in the same way we've had the consultations on the draft plan. It is purely about those modifications that the inspector wants us to make. So once we've received all those responses, we send them directly to the inspector. So it's not for us to respond to, it's for the inspectors to consider. And they will need to consider whether, as a result of the changes, a result of the responses that they've had to that consultation, whether they think there should be further modifications proposed to the plan, whether any of their proposed modifications should be amended or not carried forward. And in some circumstances, the inspectors could consider that it's necessary to reopen hearing sessions to consider a particularly difficult or complicated issue that may have arisen. So again, once this process is completed, and again, I'm continuing and making assumptions on the basis that the planning inspectors are able to find the plan sound, that they will send a final report to the local planning authority. Once received this final report, then that will give you the opportunity to consider whether you wish to adopt the local plan as amended at full council. If you make a positive decision and you choose to adopt the local plan, then there is a 6-week window for legal challenge. So anybody can challenge the local plan. They'd need to take us through the High Court, but that's possible. If no challenge is lodged within 6 weeks, then the local plan process is complete for the time being. So once we get to that stage, just to clarify, although I know you all know that the Section 1 and Section 2 local plan plus any adopted neighbourhood plans would then form the development plan for the district. So they together would form all the policies and allocations used in considering any planning applications in the district. This would mean that the remaining parts of the 2005 local plan review and the 2011 core strategy would both no longer be in force. So the good news is, instead of carrying 3 plans around, you just need to carry that one combined Section 1 and 2 plan around, fingers crossed from now on. So that is all I sort of had to say on the process. There's a little bit of detail in various parts in the report, but I'm very happy to take any questions that members have, and I will do my very best to answer them.
Thank you, Emma. Thanks very much. Just from my point of view, I was logged on to the examination every day, every hour that it was on, I think. It did go very smoothly. The technology held up well. And actually, I thought both inspectors were very thorough, but they were quite relaxed in some respects, and they were a pretty good double act. I don't think they'd mind me saying that. It did go quite well. Before I see if anybody else has got any questions, just one from me. I know Councillor Abbott isn't with us this evening, but he did earlier this week ask a question of you and me, I think, about green buffers. This was discussed at some length during the examination, and Councillor Abbott asked if, as a result of that, we needed to produce any additional evidence or paperwork for the inspector on the green buffers. Could you just answer that? I know he's not here, but as this is going out on YouTube, he can always look back on it. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. So the green buffers was one of the areas where the inspector wanted more information from us. The inspector wanted to know a bit more detail as to how we'd come to the decisions around where the green buffers were, what their boundaries were, and also where the green buffers weren't. So why had we chosen the particular areas that we had, and what was our methodology for doing that? So we were able to set that out in a written form, so to set out the procedure that we went through, both as officers and the decisions that you made as councillors through the local plan subcommittee. That was part of the pack of information that we have submitted to the inspectors. So we are yet to hear a view from them as to whether they want that to be part of a consultation. So what they could ask is that is part of a consultation on the main modification. So they could ask for comments on that at the same time. They could ask for comments on it in advance of any modifications consultation, or they could decide that actually that's all the information they required and they don't want any further comments on it, in which case it would be a case of, when the modifications consultation came out, would be looking at the proposed changes they may want to make to that policy and commenting on that accordingly.
Okay, thanks. And can I just ask, because I haven't looked, is that information that we submitted, is that available now on the website for anybody to look at, or does that come a bit later once the inspectors have come back?
So it's not available on the website at the moment. We submitted it all, we sent it all off to the inspectors. The inspectors hasn't asked for any of that information that we sent over to them to be put in the public domain, as it were, to be added to the website at this stage. I mean, this part of the process is often quite iterative, so an inspector will ask a technical question, officers will respond to it, and there could be, debates about particular points of policy or wording that may go back and forth. Obviously, I should just say, not directly with the inspector. The local authority is not allowed to directly contact the inspector, so everything that we do is through an independent programme officer who acts as the sort of conduit.
Yep, that's fine. Good. Thank you for that. Right. Does anybody have any questions or any comments for Emma at all? I mean, it's relatively straightforward. Just if anybody had anything new. Right. I have.
Sorry,
Oh,
Councillor Spray.
no, go on, Emma.
I was going to say, out of interest, if you remember, the two inspectors who were appointed to do our examination were also appointed to do the tendering and Colchester examination.
Yes. Yeah.
So just to give you a bit of flavour, tendering held their hearing sessions in late February. They received their modifications in May, and their consultation on those main modifications took place in July. And they're, as far as I know, they're yet to then receive a final report following that consultation. Colchester held their sessions in late April, but as far as I can see, are yet to publish any main modification or other consultation. So, just to give you a flavour for those authorities that went before us in the hearing session process, actually, they don't appear to be that much. I think we've gained time on them, I think, over the last few months.
Okay. Right, I'm sort of hoping, well, I think we were all hoping to get our section 2 approved before the end of this year. Just felt like a good cut-off point, but I'm aware, we're into September now, so and we have got to have the 6-week consultation and so on. So we might be, I don't know, what's your view? Are we going to be cutting it a bit fine?
So I hope, and this is just my view, that we are going to be there and thereabouts around the end of the year. Obviously, it depends on how quickly we're able and LUC are able to complete the sustainability the appraisal once we've had the inspectors' main modifications, and also how quickly the inspectors are looking at the main modifications and also writing their final report, which largely depends on their existing workloads and any particular complicated issues come up that they need to discuss. So I think we're on course for sort of there or thereabouts for the end of the year.
All right, good. Councillor Everard, do you want to ask a question?
Yes, please. A tall ask, really. Tendering, be nice to know how they get on, especially with the garden communities. I don't know if this could be updated or not to us.
Thank you. I'm sure Emma will let us know when she gets any news about tendering, and Colchester as well. But yes, I take your point about tendering. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we will know as soon as there's anything significant to tell us.
And in terms of the garden community themselves, I'm pretty certain they certainly have a community engagement page where you could sign up. So if you were particularly interested, I'm sure you could sign up there, and then you'd get sent their regular updates and notifications of how that garden community was progressing.
Yes, that's right. I'm getting them actually, so it is possible. Okay. Anyone else? If not, I've got one other thing which is sort of related to this. Councillor Mann at Cabinet on Monday asked a question. This is in relation to the number of homes built during the first quarter of this year, which is 916. And he asked a question about whether or not any of those completions impact on our 5-year land supply. I don't know if you're in a position to give any information about that at this meeting, are you? I think a full answer has gone out to all members, but it might just help if you could give a brief summary. Thanks.
Yes, very happy to. So in terms of the housing supply position, the council formally updates its position once a year. And that's because it is such a complicated process to do so, and very time consuming. It involves site visits, for example, on sites to see how far they have progressed, and lots of returns from various developers and builders. So we update our housing land supply every year and we update it to a position from the 1st of April to the 31st of March the following year, so following a usual financial year calendar. So anything that is in the approvals that we have approved, new applications since the 31st of March, wouldn't be in the current housing supply statement, but would be included in the roll forward that we would do each year. The slightly complicated nature of that figure, the figure that is reported through Pentana, is a list of all planning application approvals in the district. So that means there is an element of double counting within that number, because it's counting outline and change of use and full applications, but it's also counting reserve matters applications. So they may have gone into those figures once as an outline, and then they've gone into it again as a reserve matters application. So the figure is bigger than the actual, if you sort of cleansed all the data together in terms of sites. What I think we are going to suggest is that perhaps we take out the reserve matters from those figures in future, so that you've just got the outlines, change of use and the fulls in there, and that should minimise the amount of double counting that's in those figures and provide a more realistic figure in terms of how that adds into the 5-year housing supply.
Okay, good. Thank you. That would sound like a sensible thing to do. Thank you for that. Right, I don't see anyone else wishing to ask a question or speak on this item. So the next item on the agenda, item 6, urgent business, we have none. So in view of that, I think I can close the meeting at 18:26. Thank you very much, members. Thank you, officers.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll just close the meeting. Bear with me 1 second. Please can the webcaster confirm that the YouTube broadcast has stopped.